Misogynoir in American history. Misogynoir is a term that was invented by Moya Bailey, who was a professor at Northwestern University in 2010. She came up with it for the Crunk Feminist Collective, which was a blog that used to be on online. It's now become, though, so popular that it's actually found in standard dictionaries. So it's a real word now. It describes the specific kind of oppression experienced by Black women. And so it's that oppression that combines both racism and sexism together in a way that is basically indivisible. You can't really pull it apart and say this part is racism, this part is sexism, because they mingle so much and influence each other. So what we're going to do here is look at some stereotypes that emerge out of misogynoir and look at, and they'll be coming up again and again in this class. First of all is the stereotype of mammy. And this is the version of a Black woman as being plump, basically sexless. And in some ways we can see this as going back to a much older stereotype of Black women as workers who do nothing but work and have children. But what develops into the mammy stereotype, it's really around the late 19th, early 20th century that it emerges, and it's basically a myth about slavery. This idea that under enslavement there were these happy enslaved women who all of their love and devotion strictly goes to the white family that they care for, particularly the white children. And actually their own Black children they sort of don't care much about, don't think about. So it's this myth or stereotype, and it gets encouraged in the 20th century, I think partly because of the existence of a large number of Black women who are working in domestic service. And so once again, you have this myth that these women who work in domestic service, all their love and their devotion goes to the white family that they work for rather than their own children and husbands and community. And this becomes extremely popular. It shows up on TV, in movies like the Mammy and Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, who actually got an Oscar for her performance. It shows up in advertising like Aunt Jemima's pancake flour. It shows up all over the place, toys, and so forth. Another stereotype that develops is the idea of Sapphire, or the angry Black woman. And it used to be called Sapphire because it's from an old TV show and radio show, Amos and Andy, which portrayed a stereotypical Black family and community. And Sapphire was the wife in that. And the way the Jim Crow Museum defines this is that it portrays Black women as rude, loud, malicious, stubborn, and overbearing. And in a lot of ways, the focus was on the Black women, that they're emasculating towards Black men and angry and constantly berating them. As time has gone on and evolved, it's evolved into what is today called the angry Black woman stereotype, which portrays Black women as domineering and angry and aggressive, and often they're portrayed as targeting that aggression towards white women, Black men as well, but towards white women. So for example, in this cartoon we have here Serena Williams, I believe it is, portrayed as this sort of monster who's going to threaten this helpless white blonde tennis player. And so it's become not just something that's targeting Black men, but it's seen as something that's targeting white people as well. Oh, and this is something that is also used now as we have more Black women in positions of power. This stereotype is applied to congresswomen, leaders, various women in powerful positions in the community and society are targeted as, quote, angry black women. That's the stereotype that gets applied to them. Jezebel may be the oldest stereotype. It's based on Jezebel being a bad woman from the Bible. And the portrayal is that Jezebel, the black woman, is highly sexual, she's promiscuous, she's seductive, hypersexualized, and that she's actually predatory towards men. That she's the one who seduced men into having sex with her. And so it really functions historically as a justification for male aggression towards black women, particularly white male aggression towards black women, because the idea is that she's the one who seduced them into it. And that shows up really early on when you have the first European visitors in Africa as the slave trade is just getting going. That is one of the stereotypes that they apply to African women. And it just keeps getting carried down, and it's still around today. You can see it in a variety of places, including pornography. This last one isn't sort of in the official list or whatever, but I think it's an important stereotype to think about, which is the adultification and sexualization of black girls. That black girls are frequently seen as being far more adult than white girls and far more sexual than white girls. And so a 2017 Georgetown study found that most people felt that black girls need less nurturing, less protection, less support, less comforting, that black girls were more independent, they knew more about adult topics, and they knew much more about sex. And so this all plays out in some very problematic ways, including the sexual exploitations of young black women and black girls under the justification that they're already sexually experienced or already seducing men, despite how young they are. It also plays out as a justification for treating young black women and black girls as expected to be caregivers at an early age. Or when we talk about domestic service, one of the things that we'll read about is young black girls being expected to work in white households as servants and basically taking on an adult job at a very young age and being expected to fulfill it the way an adult woman would. It also plays out, of course, in the criminal justice system and school system, where black girls are much more targeted for discipline and punishment and referrals to the justice system than white girls are for similar behavior. So these historical themes keep coming up. They're useful as tools of analysis. They do evolve over time, like we saw with Sapphire and the angry black woman stereotype. But they still are underlying tendencies that we can see happening cross-historically.